and welcome to Focus on FCT as we highlight policies and programs of the FCT administration. I am Mariam George Jitubo.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory are hereby alerted to the activities of scavengers, also known as Babambula, which security agencies have identified as a high-level security threat to not only the residents but also to our infrastructure as they perpetrate petty stealing and acts of vandalism on public utilities. More so, they are drug peddlers, serve as spies to terrorist elements, and are ready-made tools for the public disturbances during which they attack people with dangerous weapons. The Federal Capital Territory Administration therefore reiterates that the ban on scavengers aka Bababula operating within the Federal Capital City is still in force. These miscreants are advised to stay off the streets of the Federal Capital City for their own good, as defaulters will be apprehended and prosecuted, including parents of underage children involved in these practices. Relevant agencies are carrying out enforcement of this ban as stipulated. Be law-abiding always. Let's together build the FCT of our dreams. Management announcer.
Who is a building inspector and how much do you know about your responsibilities in ensuring that every structure is built according to specifications? The Deputy Director in charge of the Building Inspectorate Division South 1 of the FCT Development Control Department, Mohammed Dikko Maiwalima, gives an insight into the mandate of the Inspectorate in examining the integrity of structures, thereby averting unfortunate incidences of building collapse in the FCT. These and more will come your way shortly. Do stay with the program. Joining me now is the Deputy Director in charge of Building Inspectorate South 1 of the FCT Department of Development Control, in the person of Builder Mohammed Dikko Maiwalima. Glad to have you join us on Focus on FCT.
Thank you very much, Madam.
Let's begin with the mandate of the Building Inspectorate Division South 1.
Thank you very much, Madam. The Department of Development Control has divisions like the Building Inspectorate, the Amenities and Aesthetics. We also have the permit, we have logistics, we have the monitoring and enforcement, and we have the admin. They are all functional divisions. We are in Building Inspectorate, and the mandate of our division is to ensure safety in the production of buildings. Basically, what we do in development control as part of the general mandate is to safeguard and to implement the master plan of Abuja. And by implementing that, we have the planning part and also the physical development. So we are concerned about the physical development. The planning, after getting the permit, everything is processed. We have the conveyance and the approved building plan sent to our division. And that is where we kickstart the implementation. At this point, we are expected to issue the conveyance and the approved building plan to the developer. And then the developer will kickstart the production process by setting out, profiling, doing excavations, putting the starter bars, and then he will now write an application or request to the department, inviting the professionals to come and check what he has done. And then we mobilize those officers who are in charge of this inspection from Building Inspectorate, go there to inspect, and then we check. We have a checklist which constitutes checking the size of reinforcement, the spacing that are laid down. We also check the depth of foundation, also look at the centralization of the starter bars, including the columns, and so many other parameters we check. And then if that is okay and in accordance with what is approved, we now certify and then give a stage approval for setting out. That's the first thing. The process is easy. After the application, after the inspection, all the documents are processed, and then the director gives the approval while we signed on behalf of the director to give out the setting out. That's the first stage of work. And subsequently, we have stages approval. If you are building up to 10-story buildings, at every stage, at every milestone, we make sure, or it is mandatory for any developer to write to us, to the department. We'll go there to inspect. We'll also inspect the columns, the beams, and also the slab arrangement of the reinforcement. We look at the sizes. We look at the development length, that is the anchorage. We also look at the spacing. We look at so many things to make sure that we don't have deflection, we don't have any collapse thereafter. So this is part of what we do, and this is what we refer to as quality control. We make sure that everything is done in accordance to what is specified in the drawing. Where we have faulty designs, we try to correct some that are visible to us.
Okay, I know viewer out there will be itching to ask this question. With so much being done by your department or division to forestall cases of building collapse in the FCT, we still experience this in the FCT. What can you say about that?
Yes, fundamentally you have three things that causes building collapse. They are wrapped in three things. One, we have the design error. Two, we have the construction errors. And the third one is force majeure. The design errors are normally done during the design. If you have quacks who are not experienced in their field of study, or maybe they have studied but they are not registered, that means they have not obtained the relevant registration with their professional bodies. They go out just looking for any work, and because people are not too familiar with the operation of the professionals in construction industry, they assume everybody should be an architect, everybody should be an engineer the moment you can just build. But it goes beyond that. You need to have a qualified professional to make a design for you. First person you contact after getting your land, after you have acquired your land legally, you are supposed to engage the services of a professional architect. And the architect will not just jump into design without having the contour. You need the contour map of that plot so that you can be able to design well. You don't mislead your actual client. You need to advise him. So if you have that architect who will design based on contour, fine. That is the first step. Then the next one is the structural engineer. Structural engineer who is supposed to give and design, the safety, the components of safety in that building. What are those components? We have the columns, we have the beams, we have the foundation, we have the slabs. Those components, structural components, are supposed to be designed by an experienced structural engineer who will give you the size of reinforcement, who will give you the spacing, who will tell you the anchorage and the rest of them, which should be fully implemented, because it is done after calculations. So if you just jump to a person who will only design, he doesn't even know how to do the calculation, he has just done it for you because it has been done in the village, and you have a village mason, he can do it for you, then you are inviting collapse. So the most important thing is to engage that professional, because while the architect is concerned about aesthetic of the building, is concerned about circulation of the building, is also concerned about ventilation and fenestration of the building. So also is the engineer concerned about the safety, general safety. So he designed the foundation for you, he designed the columns, he designed the slab, he designed the beams to make sure that anything that is in there is safe. Whatever load. If you look at this office now, you see a lot of files in this office. If this place is not designed to carry this load, it will definitely actually collapse. We're not talking of the dead loads alone. We have the imposed loads. You are imposed load to this building. I'm an imposed load to this building. We can move out. But the dead load, they remain here permanently. These files can be removed. They are also regarded as imposed loads. So if you have not provided for the capacity, if you have not provided at least the strength to the building to hold this imposed load, you are causing actually a collapse. So it is part of those things that causes collapse. When you have designed a building for residential, you change it to commercial. You should expect more activities on commercial buildings. If you have designed a building for commercial and you are changing to industrial, putting machine, printing machine, and the rest of them, you are inviting collapse because that building was not designed to carry those kind of loads. So these are the things, and these are the prevalent things land use. This place is for residential, you change it to commercial. This place is residential, you change it to industrial, and the rest of them. So these are some of the things that actually the causes actually collapse. So that is in design. We also have it in construction. Construction errors, we have a lot of things. Like what? We have poor workmanship. You have underutilized actually materials or materials that are not good, substandard actually materials. We have them in the market. A reinforcement that is supposed to be used, that is supposed to be 16 mm. If you measure, you'll find it 14 mm. You understand? And if the structural engineer has designed a column to carry about 4 number 16 mm, and what you can have in the market is 14 mm, that's mean you are shortchange of about how many? About 2 in each of the roads. So that will reduce the strength. These are the things that is prevalent. So also call on SON, that is Standard Organization of Nigeria, to be checkmating these things. These are part of their responsibilities, to go into the market and fetch out those things. And on the other hand, if that cannot be possible for now, the developers should be encouraged to add more reinforcement. If the structural engineer have designed for you to use 16 mm in every column, 4 number, you should be able to use about 6 of it of actually 14 mm, the one you obtain in the market as 16. So at least that will augment the shortage you'll have in the sizes of reinforcement. That is very important. So this is why the construction errors come in. And also, you have the cement chemistry. It is not all the time that you have the real composition of this material that form actual cement, even in the industry. You may have some lapses sometimes. You may have some errors from the industry. And after packaging, they shift it to the market and people will buy it. And most of these concretes will give maybe the ratio of mix. If you are mixing 1:2:4 for reinforced concrete, or 1:1.5:3, and you try to make use of that either by weight or by volume, you may not actually have the perfect mix that you have designed for.
Building inspection is a Herculean task. Will you say you have enough manpower to carry out your responsibility?
Well, we're in a modern world. Some, they have little or they don't have much of our staff, but you see it perfectly done. We are not supposed to be using these files now that we are seeing. We're supposed to be on computer monitoring this. So the more we have these electronic gadgets and all the facilities we need, the satellite that will be monitoring sites at different areas, we don't need much than what we have now.
Now to your area of coverage. Where and where do you cover in the FCT?
Building Inspectorate covers everywhere. I'm only representing the remaining deputy directors, whereas we have 6 deputy directors in the Building Inspectorate. And I'm covering Building Inspectorate South 1. We have the Deputy Director of Building Inspectorate South 2. We have Deputy Director of Building Inspectorate North 1. And we have Building DD, Deputy Director of Building Inspectorate North 2. We also have DD Building Inspectorate, Mass Housing North. We also have DD Building Inspectorate, Mass Housing South. So you can see 6 of us. So I'm now representing the 6. So we covers FCC and FCT. Yes, FCC, that's Federal Capital City, and also FCT in general, including Abaji, Kwali, Mbwari, Kashi, everywhere in the FCT.
And I believe there is no success story without challenges. You now have this platform to share with us those challenges.
Fundamentally, it is a general phenomenon, lack of funds, because in the whole of the FCC and the FCT, which were expected to inspect all projects ongoing at every stage, at foundation, at first level, at second stage, at third stage, to the end, we don't have more than 2 vehicles for building inspectorate. We don't have more than 2 operational vehicles. So this is one of the challenges we have. We have a lot of success stories because most of you are living in your houses, in comfort. And that is because we have done our work by giving you a befitting, buildings that are stable. Without those buildings standing, you will not be able to occupy them. If maybe all the buildings or most of the buildings are collapsed, we wouldn't have a place in Abuja to stay. So this is one of our success stories, having a stable and a very, stable structural buildings, standing from offices to residential buildings and commercial. Understand? Yes.
And finally, you appeal to FCT residents.
Our appeal to FCT residents and those who will come to FCT. If you are coming to FCT, you have the intention of having a property in the FCT. Please try as much as possible because we don't want you to lose your investment. If you want to buy any property in the FCT, you are free to come to development control. Inquire whether that property you want to buy has a building plan approval. That's number 1. Otherwise, if you go out just to negotiate and get a building, you think you have money and you bought this thing, and it happens that property do not have building approval, it is liable to be removed anytime and without any compensation. But if you have the building plan approval, whether the public interest will override your own interest, the government will compensate you. But if you don't have this building plan approval, you are just wasting your time. When we have the public interest overriding your own interest, nobody will pay you for any compensation.
Thank you for gracing the program Focus on FCT and educating viewers out there.
Thank you very much, Ma, and your colleagues who have visited me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm glad.
We appreciate you.
The FCT administration has observed an increase in the influx of street beggars into the city and metropolis. When you give alms directly to street beggars, you encourage this unwholesome practice with its attendant risks to all. Remember, street begging remains banned in the FCT. Residents are encouraged to channel their alms through recognized channels as the churches, mosques, and orphanages. A better approach which still guarantees the reward of your kind gesture, as neither Islam nor Christianity encourages begging. This way, we can rid the city of this menace. To keep Abuja safe is our collective responsibility. Play your part. This message is from the FCT administration.
That was quite insightful, taking us through the monitoring operations of the division in ensuring structural qualities of buildings. Up next on the program is review of FCTA activities for the past week.
Officials of the FCTA Public Health Department and representative of the Malaria Consortium, as well as other stakeholders, maintain that malaria parasite remains one of the killer diseases in Africa. They add that the disease is endemic in many rural areas of the nation's capital. The representative of the FCT Director of Public Health says the 2023 SMC drug distribution is to ensure comprehensive coverage of all eligible children, especially in the hard-to-reach communities. He notes that this is also to address all identified shortcomings of last year's exercise.
We work in the hospitals, we see what we see. People that come in with malaria cases, so FCT, I would say we are vulnerable. And we still have vegetarian areas and we have riverine areas. So those people living at those riverine areas, mostly, they are more vulnerable.
So just so that the SMC is supposed to be implemented throughout there, and people are making efforts to mobilize resources. And so I think that these children in this bracket here are most vulnerable to disease. That's why they are targeted.
The Director of Primary Health Care in Abuja Municipal Area Council, Dr. Modupe Adeyinka, who officially flagged off the campaign, disclosed that the team to administer these drugs have been trained to reach out to the doorsteps of benefiting communities, urging all to accept the anti-malaria drug.
We have trained the CDPs, the health workers, the town announcers, even WBC, the government is on. Then the churches, everywhere.
Health experts involved in this exercise believe they have incorporated the lessons learned last year in the 2023 planning and hope to do better this year. This stakeholders engagement is termed Scoping Mission, a capacity building initiative of strengthening the efforts of the FCT administration in responding effectively to public health emergencies.
There is no functional infectious disease hospital in the FCT, which we have been striving, and even the management of the FCT are working towards that regard, which is very essential to the containment of outbreaks that are of big in nature.
The only thing that we can do as a country is to get prepared, have a sound team that can work towards containing all these public health threats that we are facing.
I, on behalf of the Hospital Management Board, is fully in alliance with this very laudable, timely, and all-important program of SURGE.
The coordinator African Volunteer Corps for SURGE in Nigeria, Dr. Kumshida Balami, says the team's visit is to assess the status of FCT's capacity in response to health emergencies and to foster ways of improving on the existing structures to ensure better health emergency coordination.
WHO will train minimum 80 responders in the Federal Capital Territory who are ready and prepared to respond to health emergencies.
She adds that the World Health Organization will support the FCT administration with vehicles for emergency response as well as consumables.
On Sanitation Watch, we shall be beaming our searchlight on the recent raids of illegal parking zones in the city center.
The tax team, comprising security operatives and other officers from relevant agencies in the FCT, confiscated vehicles from different locations within the city center. The areas raided include Barnex Junction and Federal Secretariat. Secretary, FCT Command and Control Center, Peter Olumuji, says the operation followed credible intelligence from relevant security and paramilitary agencies on illegal parks serving as criminal hideouts. More than 15 vehicles, including rickety ones, were impounded from different locations within the city center for violating traffic regulations. It will be recalled that the team had earlier sensitized the motoring public to the need to always park at designated zones to to avoid facing the wrath of the law.
This is where we wrap up this week's episode of the program. Keep a date with us next week, same time, same station. Be vigilant and report suspicious activities around you. Goodbye.